Mo Salah didn't just stop the hair loss rumors, he buried them. Every footballer with a receding hairline gets a few jokes online. Salah got a full investigation. I'm a doctor who's spent years studying hairlines for a living, and I have to tell you, this is the most documented, most dateable, most textbook transplant case I have ever seen involving a public figure. Not because he confirmed anything, he didn't, but because the internet accidentally built a perfect clinical timeline without even realizing it. So let's get into it. Did Mohamed Salah get a hair transplant? Here's what the evidence actually says. Let's start at the beginning, because the beginning is brutal. January 2024, Liverpool are playing in the rain. Salah's hair gets wet, clings to his scalp, and suddenly the whole internet sees what his curls had been hiding for years. Fans start comparing him to Krusty the Clown. Not exactly the energy you want when you're one of the best players on the planet. Now, here's where most people get this completely wrong. They think, oh, he looked thin one day. He must have gotten a transplant. That's not how you actually confirm anything. Vibes are not clinical evidence. A rainy match photo is not a diagnosis. If I judged every transplant case off one bad hair day, I'd be wrong constantly. So we need actual evidence, not just a moment that made people laugh on Twitter. And that's exactly what happened next. The 24th of May, 2024, Salah posts a photo, head fully buzzed, gone are the curls. Now to a normal fan, this just looks like a new haircut. But to anyone who's spent time in this industry, this date means something very specific. Shaving the head isn't just a style choice before a transplant for FUE. The most common technique today, it is basically mandatory. You cannot extract thousands of individual grafts efficiently through a full head of curly hair. The donor area and the recipient area both need to be clean and visible for the surgeon to work. So here's my first verdict, and I'm confident in this one. That buzz cut wasn't random. The timing, right after a season where his hairline had just become a meme, lines up almost too perfectly with pre-op protocol. This is the first real domino, but this is where it gets interesting, because what happened next is the part almost nobody understands unless they've seen it before. Early June 2024, Salah shows up for international duty, and fans are stunned. His scalp looks worse, pink, uneven, kind of scabby in areas. Comment sections go wild, thinking his hair loss suddenly accelerated. Some fans panicked, others mocked him even harder. Liverpool actually had to release a statement just to shift attention back to his football. Here's the twist almost nobody watching knew at the time. That rough, patchy look is not hair loss getting worse. It's called shock loss, and it is one of the most predictable, most textbook parts of the entire transplant recovery process. When new grafts are placed, the trauma to the scalp can cause some of the surrounding native hairs to temporarily shed. It looks alarming. It looks like a disaster, but it is completely expected, and it usually peaks about a month or two after surgery. And that's exactly what we saw. July 2024, the shedding hits its worst point. Patchy, uneven, exactly the kind of appearance that transplant trackers online immediately recognized, while casual fans thought his hairline was collapsing for good. Before I tell you what happened after that, I want to know what you think. Comment below, do you think that July's scalp was just bad genetics finally catching up to him? Or do you think this was shock loss from a procedure? Say your verdict now, because what comes next might change your mind completely. Okay, let's keep going, because the story doesn't stop there. September 2024, about 2 months after that rough patch, and suddenly, visible regrowth starts appearing around his temples. Not styled hair, not clever camera angles, actual new density coming through exactly where the recession used to be. This timing matters so much. In real hair transplant cases, you don't see meaningful regrowth show up overnight. It takes months for those transplanted follicles to wake up, push through, and start growing visibly. 2 to 3 months after the procedure is almost exactly when patients start noticing that first wave of new hair. Salah's temples doing this in September, right on schedule from that May buzz cut, is not a coincidence. I can just ignore. So here's my more confident conclusion. This isn't just his hair looked better. This is a hairline following the actual biological growth curve of a real FUE procedure, stage by stage, almost like a diagram come to life. And by December 2024, fully regrown. Straight, dense, symmetrical, the kind of hairline that looks completely natural but also completely different from where he started less than a year earlier. Estimates from people who study these things closely put the graft count somewhere between 1,500 and 3,000. And here's another detail that matters clinically. There's no visible linear scar anywhere on the back or sides of his head. That rules out the older FUT, which leaves a strip scar and points even more strongly toward FUE. Now, if you think the story ends there, it doesn't. January 2025. A viral post pops up claiming his hairline is expiring. Patchy angle, top-down photo, caption basically saying the transplant failed. It got millions of views. Fans panicked all over again, and this is honestly the hardest part of this entire case, even for someone like me, because transplanted hair can absolutely still be affected by lighting, angles, sweat, and even natural shedding cycles that have nothing to do with failure. One bad photo does not undo months of consistent, documented regrowth. This is where even experts have to be careful, because it's easy to overreact to a single frame instead of looking at the full pattern over time. And that's really the emotional core of this whole story, isn't it? This man's confidence, his image, his identity in front of millions of fans got picked apart pixel by pixel for over a year. Every angle scrutinized, every haircut analyzed like courtroom evidence. That's an intense amount of pressure for something this personal. Now let's talk about the part everyone loves, his form. In that 2024-25 season, Salah scored somewhere between 18 and 21 goals, some of the best numbers of his career. And the internet, being the internet, immediately connected the dots. One viral tweet even joked that the confidence boost from his transplant is what fueled his performance on the pitch. Is that scientifically provable? Of course not. But confidence absolutely is real. And there is genuine psychological research showing that feeling good about your appearance can affect performance in high-pressure environments. So even if it's part joke, it's not entirely baseless. So here's my final verdict, and I'm not going to hedge on this one. Look at everything laid out together. The buzz cut in May, timed exactly like a pre-op protocol. The shock loss in June and July, textbook in both appearance and timing. The regrowth appearing in September, right on the 2 to 3 month schedule you'd expect from real transplanted follicles waking up. A fully restored, symmetrical hairline by December, with density in the exact zones that had been receding for years. And through all of it, zero linear scar anywhere on the donor area, which rules out FUT and points straight at FUE. Individually, sure, you could explain any one of these away. Maybe the buzz cut was just a fresh look. Maybe the scalp irritation was stress or a skin thing. Maybe the regrowth was some combination of minoxidil, finasteride, better sleep, whatever. I'll give you that. But that's not how I look at a case like this. I don't look for one smoking gun. I look at whether every single stage lines up with the next one, in the right order, at the right time, the way a real recovery timeline actually behaves. And this one does. Every stage hands off perfectly to the next, like someone followed a textbook without knowing it was being watched. That's what separates Salah's case from 90% of the celebrity transplant rumors I see. Most of those are just, he looks different now, must be surgery. This one has an actual clinical arc. Shedding phase, dormant phase, regrowth phase, maturation phase, all falling exactly where they should on the calendar. So, in my clinical opinion, this is one of the clearest visual cases of a hair transplant I have seen in a public figure, full stop. Has he confirmed it? No. Will he probably ever confirm it? Also no. And honestly, that's normal. Athletes guard this kind of thing closely because it's personal, and because the second they admit it, the story becomes about their hair instead of their game. But confirmation from Salah himself isn't what proves a case like this. The pattern is the proof, and the pattern doesn't lie. I want to hear from you now. Comment your own hair journey, whether you're dealing with thinning, considering a procedure, or just nervous about starting that conversation with yourself. And tell me which athlete or celebrity you want me to break down next, because this series is only getting started. I'm here every week, decoding the hairlines the internet loves to argue about, so you don't have to guess. See you in the next one.